Hello and welcome along to the channel. So just how much watch and how many complications can you get for around $200? Well, how about date? How about week? How about month? How about moon phase? How about a 24-hour indicator and a load of diamonds? Well, not real ones. But how about all of that for $200? What could possibly go wrong? Well, today's watch homages one of the Holy Trinity with a lot of complications and at a very low price. The watch in question today is this Reef Tiger. It's my first experience with the brand, and yeah, I don't particularly like making videos like this. I most enjoy filming watches that I love, and I'm excited to share with an audience on YouTube and talk about in the comments. Unfortunately, this watch is not one of those, but as always, I will be honest, so we may as well take a look. So in the interest of consistency, I'll go through the specs as usual. So 42.5mm diameter, 13.5mm thick, 22mm lug width, 50 meters of water resistance. They quote hardlex, but let's just say a mineral crystal on the dial there. And case material is stainless steel, maybe. During the review, I'll put some of the AliExpress verbiage over the top and let you see for yourself how it stacks up with the actual product on the video. Elegant style, deep taste, bright zirconium and diamond inlay. Collocation multifunctional dial, highlight charm, shine extraordinary brilliance. Now in terms of design, yes, I know it's incredibly blingy, but this can be done well at a low price. Obviously, you know, these are plastic imitation diamonds, but you know, if this is your thing, the Pagani design rainbow chronographs with the Seiko VK movements, whatever you think of the looks, they're really good watches. I had one for a while and I used it, abused it, took it on vacation, took it in the sea, and I never had a problem. It still looked great, and it was really well done for a super low price. I mean, that was less than $100. Anyway, before I go into details, let's have a look at what we've got. So this is based off a grand complication, as I mentioned, from one of the Holy Trinity, and that other watch is really expensive, as you might have guessed from the thumbnail. So if you're after something on a budget, that's the market that this watch is trying to cater for. It's trying to be a good homage to that watch. Now, it does have some design differences to that watch. It's actually got more diamonds on this, which makes it more blingy. I went for the black fake diamonds around the edges and on the lugs just to try and tone it down a little bit, but I know trying to tone it down with this design, yeah, it's not really happening, is it? Dial on this one is actually a sunburst grey, although it looks like black on the AliExpress listing, so that was one of many disappointments. You've got Reef Tiger at the top, and then you've got a year followed by a month, so this is the first unusual part, I guess, of this watch. Automatic in italic font underneath that. The subdial on the right hand side is your date indicator, and then below that you have the 24-hour indicator, which has a day-night disc also tied into it, so it rotates with the 24-hour indicator. And then the left subdial is totally unnecessary. It's a day of the week 1 to 7 indicator, which is obviously going to change as the months go by and just gives you another thing to set for no reason. All the hands are polished, and the finishing on the hands is actually reasonable, probably one of the better parts on the watch. Of course, around the edge of the dial you have the extremely blingy inlay there with all of those fake white diamonds with the fake black diamonds as the hour markers. And from a distance, if you squint, I still think it looks kind of cool, but you do have to squint because that inlay where the diamonds are sort of glued onto, it's, as far as I can tell, especially from looking up close and with macro, it's just a piece of plastic. It's not even metal, or if it is, it's finished to a very, very, very low standard. That will become a theme with this. So it really does look like something out of a cereal box. Right, so I'll show you how it works anyway, and we'll talk about the movement a little bit. So there's basically 4 pushers on the case. Top right adjusts the month, bottom right adjusts the date, bottom left adjusts the week, top left adjusts the year. So that's the operation of the movement. It doesn't hack, and there wasn't much information on the movement. I can show you the movement from the rear side because it does have a display case back where you can look in and see some very rough looking components that look very cheaply made and very poorly finished for even $200 in AliExpress money. Transparent bottom cover design, 21 ruby bearing movement, 48 hours power storage, make sure it's accurate, no more than 5 seconds. I couldn't find any information on exactly what this movement is, so I couldn't figure out how much it costs and just how much of a budget movement it is. It does sound like a bag of spanners in a washing machine when the rotor is turning, but yeah, if you do know what the movement is, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would be curious to read a little bit more about it. Smooth and smooth lines, square sparkling diamond table and table, and metal. Looking at the case, it's a high polish finish, I think. Although I say I think because it's so low quality, it's so streaky, it seems to have a manufacturing defect in one of the lugs. And I'm questioning whether it's plated not on stainless steel, but instead on some sort of alloy or brass or something akin to a super budget watch, because it looks awful. It looks really bad. And if you're going to pair fake diamonds with a case of that quality and finishing like that, yeah, I mean, it feels like an absolute rip-off at $200. The insides of the lugs were actually dirty when the watch came. I mean, I used a cotton bud to remove like black dust off them, so that was nice. The crown isn't screw down, and yeah, the watch feels equally bad when you wind it as it does when it winds itself with the weighted rotor. The strap on this one feels pretty poor, pretty plasticky. It's not great. Actually, the clasp, this deployant clasp, is surprisingly comfortable, which I don't very often find with a lot of deployant clasps. It's actually finished to a reasonable standard and works quite nicely. I think it's the only part of the watch that I actually like. How does the watch wear on the wrist? Well, it's got a 51.5mm lug to lug, and they're not massively downturned, so that with the 42.5mm diameter, it's pretty big for my wrist. It's on the limit and maybe doesn't quite fit my wrist. But to be honest, that's really not the main problem here, and I bought it knowing it was a larger watch, so I'm not really going to kick it down too much for that. What can I say about the watch that's good? Well, aside from the deployant clasp, to be honest, the lume's okay. The lume on the hour hand, the minute hand, it's okay. Just a quick one to say, if you're enjoying today's horror show of a watch, then please don't hesitate to like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification for an alert whenever I upload. I can promise you that most of the watches I reviewed on the channel, thankfully, have been a lot better than this one. Anyway, back into the review. So let me summarize the negatives with this watch. It has a terrible movement, no hacking, poor variance, it sounds cheap and rattly. The dial is sunburst grey, not black. Something I didn't mention is there is basically no AR coating, it's awful for reflections. I can make it look okay with my studio lighting and getting the angles right to capture the dial, but out and about, it's absolutely awful. The case finishing is dismal, it looks plated, it came with a dent, it was dirty out of the box. The hour and minute markers are glued on a cheap shiny piece of plastic that is poorly formed. There's literally no need to have a weak subdial as far as I'm concerned, or to have the year. I mean, the watch is never going to last as many years as this goes up to, I don't think. The strap is plasticky. To be honest, it's like an insult to all of the other AliExpress brands who are making amazing products. You look at obviously what comes out of San Martin, you look at Steel Dive, you look at Chronos, you look at Boltony. I mean, there's so many fantastic brands on AliExpress now that give you so many good options. They're starting to do more and more original designs, and that's all of the strengths in Chinese watchmaking. You can get amazing product for a really low price, and the quality is fantastic. And this harks back to bad stereotypes of Chinese watches from maybe a decade ago or even longer. You know, super cheap, low quality, bad plastic, poor manufacturing, low quality finishing, the sort of stuff that you might find on a street market in Bangkok at midnight. And it's just not reflective of the quality of product that you can get from so many other brands at this price point, regardless of the design and regardless of the kind of over-the-top bling, it's just a really lazy and sloppy interpretation. You could drop some of the complications and still keep roughly this design, but you could do it properly. You could finish the case well. You could make it feel like a quality product for $200 because all of the other AliExpress brands are capable of doing this. So why are Reef Tiger incapable? I haven't handled any of their other watches. I've only handled this one. So maybe there's other watches in their catalog, and maybe this is just a particularly bad choice, but I'm certainly not impressed, and I won't be spending any of my money on a Reef Tiger watch in the future. Anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that, and yeah, hopefully this video has at least been somewhat entertaining. And please, if you haven't experienced some of the fantastic brands that you can try on AliExpress, certainly don't judge them on this watch because it is not a fair representation. Let me know in the comments if you've had any experience with Reef Tiger, if you've had any other watches similar to this one that have given you that same crushing disappointment for a variety of reasons. It's always interesting to read your comments and interact with you, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.